A Massachusetts politician was center stage yet again in presidential politics, as Senator Elizabeth Warren joined Hillary Clinton on the campaign trail for the first time. Our senior senator quickly assumed a role she's come to relish, a pit bull gnawing on Donald Trump's ankle.
Donald Trump says he'll make America great again. It's right there. No, it's stamped on the front of his goofy hat. You want to see Goofy? Look at him in that hat.
Warren's ability to juice the progressive wing of the party with her fiery rhetoric reportedly has her on the short list for vice president. Trump, of course, was unimpressed, tweeting crooked Hillary is wheeling out one of the least productive senators in the U.S. Senate, goofy Elizabeth Warren, who lied on heritage. The Clinton campaign is turning up the heat, running an ad targeting Trump's response to Brexit as being self-centered and unstatesmanlike. We'll show you that in a minute. It's an all-out effort by Clinton to keep building momentum. An ABC Washington Post poll over the weekend has Clinton up 51% to 39. An NBC Wall Street Journal poll has the race closer, 46 to 41, with Clinton still in the lead, but even closer when you throw in those wild and crazy libertarians. There's a lot to talk about today. Joining me are Bob Hedlund, he's Republican mayor of Weymouth. Are you supporting Trump or not yet, or where are you? Supporting Trump?
By default at this point.
Okay, you are. Fine. Okay. Jessie Mermel, former communications director for Governor Patrick. She's a big Clinton supporter. Carly Carioli, a contributing editor of Politico. Carly, it's good to have you here. Mayor, let's start with you. Is this a VP tryout, or is this sort of, as I said at the top, a Sanders fill-in kind of thing to lure the Sanders voters over to Clinton camp?
I think it's that. I don't think that she'll ever be considered for.
Why not?
It just doesn't make any sense. I mean, for a whole host of the traditional reasons.
Give me one at the top.
2 women on the ticket, for instance.
We vote for 2 men all the time. That's
I know.
worked out
I
just
understand.
fine.
I understand.
But at
a time when you're going to have the first female nominee, I don't think you're going to see a female vice presidential nominee at the same time. I also think ideologically, I think they're going to go for someone more moderate in a state that they might need to pick up.
Do you think? I mean, do you really? I know you in your heart believe what you just said, but in your head, do you believe? Is America ready for 2 women? I mean, that's one of the major things. One is a test for some voters. 2 is too much.
Yeah,
no? Yes?
It's a fair question. Listen, I see that image of 2 women up there on stage, you know, potentially leading the country, and my heart sings. But I certainly appreciate thinking strategically that it might be a bridge too far for some. My test for a VP is, do they click with Hillary Clinton? Is it someone who's going to avoid internal nonsense? That's what I worry about.
Does she avoid internal nonsense when on a lot of issues, Wall Street amongst them, she's really not with your candidate?
I'm actually not talking about issues. I'm talking about whether or not they click on a personal level. You know, the Clinton campaigns are infamous, unfortunately, for inside drama, and I think one of the things that's absolutely vital for a VP candidate is that they get along with the machine, they get along with Hillary Clinton personally.
So you think it's possible?
I think it's possible. My money's not on it, both because I don't know that it's the best strategic decision, but also that I don't know why Elizabeth Warren would want to be VP. She's so powerful right now, so powerful in the Senate, and she gets to be her own voice as opposed to being someone's number 2.
This guy was nodding agreement with the last point. You think, why would she give up what she's got? Is that it?
Yeah, and WGBH's David Bernstein wrote a great piece for Politico about what is at stake if Elizabeth Warren stays in the Senate.
What is at stake?
Well, if Trump impacts down ballot the ticket, then Elizabeth Warren in the Senate can be a leader of a new class of senators. I also think if you look at the target of Clinton and Warren together, Donald Trump today responded to this not only with tweets, but also started to pivot away from calling her Pocahontas or this other nonsense.
We did the heritage thing in the tweet.
He did, but he also started to talk about her as a turncoat, and that the 2 of them together presents a different kind of target than just one of them either way. And she can still go out on the trail and pummeled Trump the way that she has. She's been her best surrogate. She doesn't need to necessarily be on the ticket in order to do that.
Beyond the issue of whether the voters are ready for it, I'm not sure the press is ready for this. CNN reported today, a woman, by the way, Warren and Clinton's joint appearance on Monday was visually striking. The 2 women, who are only 1 year apart in age, stepped onto the stage wearing suits of similar shades, and then describes the colors of their outfits.
The media is having a hard time figuring out how to appropriately cover women candidates. Whew, I am glad I'm sitting down. I might have fallen over.
Nicely put.
Jim, I think one point we missed on this is that, you know, Elizabeth Warren, very liberal, or shall we say progressive, from Massachusetts. I don't think she's been tested nationally. I mean, here's someone who doesn't really open herself up to the press unless it's a very scripted situation. I don't think she can withstand
Kim Kaine,
the scrutiny.
Sherrod Brown, who of the other Democrats have been tested nationally?
Let me get on the Cory Booker bandwagon or something, but I don't know. I don't know, but I don't think it's going to be Elizabeth Warren.
Look, can we switch to this, the vote, obviously the shocking vote, at least to a lot of people, Brexit over there in Great Britain last week. Here is a pretty powerful ad that came out from the Hillary Clinton campaign just today, a piece of it.
Every president is tested by world events, but Donald Trump thinks about how his golf resort can profit from them.
When the pound goes down, more people are coming to Turnberry.
You know, Carly, the conventional wisdom of some is these campaigns were incredibly similar. I'll recite the litany that you've heard a million times. Resentment towards immigrants, resentment towards those arrogant elites who don't listen to us, loss of national sovereignty, all this sort of thing. How far do those parallels carry come November?
Well, I think if you look at the Clinton campaign right now, they're, quietly they're saying that they've gone out, they're doing the ad. They think this is good for them because the argument that they want to make, I think, is that they want to come back and say, look, we know that you're upset. We know that you're disgusted with politics as usual. But let's hold the phone here and look at the unintended consequences if you just sort of go off and decide that you want out without.
But interestingly, not saying how we're going to fix those things you're upset about, just saying he's the wrong person to hire to do the fixing.
Absolutely. And at some point, there is going to come a time, and I think we're fast approaching it, where Trump's negatives are so high that it won't make any more sense to attack him and that she will have to energize her base. But in the meantime, that's part of a powerful message that she's been reinforcing for the past couple of months.
Does the vote in the UK help your guy?
I don't know if it helps my guy, but certainly there are some similarities. But I think England's relationship with the EU goes much beyond any parallels with what Trump is dealing with in the United States. I think that it's very simplistic to talk about xenophobia and immigrants and things like that. I think there's a lot of economic issues at play here. And I think that the bureaucracy that someone in England has to deal with the EU is much more significant than what we complain about here in the United States.
But I mean, it's not just Trump. I mean, it's also the powerlessness thing that Bernie Sanders was raising pretty artfully in this campaign. Obviously, the politics are totally different. But this notion that there's this out-of-touch, arrogant elite who doesn't listen to you, whether it's Wall Street, whether it's the government, whatever. I mean, that chord was struck pretty well by Trump and by your candidate's opponent, no?
Yeah, so I've got to push back on one thing here. You said that Hillary Clinton wasn't proposing any sort of solution. That's entirely untrue. She has an economic plan. She's talking about the need for equal pay. She's talking about the need for paid family leave.
No, but she chose to do an ad attacking Trump, not to do an ad saying, here are the things that I'm proposing.
Okay, but an ad is different from what you said in that she's not proposing any sort of solution.
I'm talking about ads.
She's proposing real things that would help address those inequalities that people feel and really are holding them back.
But as somebody who's a communications director, the way people pay attention to ads, people
pay attention to ads, but ads
speeches,
aren't the only communications tool. If you look at what she's pushing out there on social media, if you look what her surrogates are out there saying, they are presenting her plan. To your point about Bernie Sanders, absolutely. Senator Sanders did an incredible job of putting forward a message that resonated with people who were concerned about those things. I would point out that a month ago, 20% of Sanders voters said they were voting for Trump. This month, it's only 8%. Those folks are starting to see that it's Hillary Clinton who will best advance the issues and the causes that they care about.
Speaking of Sanders, who sort of disappeared, and I think it really happened not just with Hillary Clinton's ascension, but Orlando came in the middle. It's pretty hard to trash the candidate you're running against at a time of national mourning, essentially. There are a ton of things in this platform that he was able to get in that Hillary Clinton doesn't support. Does anybody care about that? Or is that just an internal kind of thing where Clinton can say to the Sanders supporters, we're on board with you X, Y, and Z, even though I'm not campaigning on X, Y, or Z?
Politico's Michael Cruz spent a lot of time in Western Pennsylvania, Rust Belt, more Midwest than East Coast, talking to blue-collar voters. I mean, we've heard about these folks and which way are they going to turn. And I think the tough thing for the Hillary campaign is he's finding that these are guys who are coal miners or truck drivers. They've voted Democratic their whole life. And yes, they are starting to think about jobs. They're thinking about trade. And there's indications that they're thinking about Trump. Now, the question is, will they pull the lever for Trump? Unclear, but the polls are starting to show that it's moving a little bit that way in some key battleground states, in some key markets.
Does Trump really believe in a serious way? I know you're not consulting with him directly, that a lot of the Sanders people are coming over. There'll clearly be some on the margins. But whether the 8% or the 20% is the right number, people who are embracing the Sanders view of the world, come November 8th, are not going to say Donald Trump is my voice. Are they, or are they?
I think it's unlikely, but I think that those people will stay home. I don't think you're going to see a lot of enthusiasm for some of the Sanders people going out and working for Hillary, even voting. I think a lot of those people will sit in their hands. I think the trouble for Hillary is exactly what was just stated, in that in those Rust Belt states, you're going to have people that realize that we're in a hopeless situation with this economy after 8 years. Even beyond, if you want to go back to NAFTA and some of these trade deals, I think there's a realization that that's the reason the middle class is shrinking in this nation, because of loss of our industrial base.
You know, my sense of the antidote, and I'm probably far too optimistic about this, for people who can't stand either candidate, which is a majority of the American people, and no, it is, I mean, which is sad as far as I'm concerned, and I'm not going to vote, is the Supreme Court over the last couple of days. Even if you say, well, I'm going to sit this one out because the next one I'll get a candidate I like, you pick a 47-year-old person to succeed an 80-year-old justice. He or she is going to be there through 5 presidents, 6 presidents, 7 presidents. My assessment, the abortion decision this morning, which was huge, I would argue, I think there couldn't be worse news for your candidate. Here's my analysis. I was pro-choice, now I'm pro-life, but I'm not really going to talk about it a lot, except in front of groups that are really pro-life. Now that the pro-life position is believed to be at risk after this decision, the demand on him is going to be to front and center this argument, which is not very popular with women where he's already having trouble. Am I wrong there or no?
I think on all issues, you know, I think everyone kind of realizes what they're going to get with Hillary Clinton. Trump's a wild card. I don't know what we're going to get with him, and who knows what we would get for Supreme Court.
But I am right. The demand on him
her,
to front and center his pro-life position is going to be pretty intense after this morning's decision, don't you think?
I can't predict anything the guy will say on a given day.
Forget what he puts out there proactively. I imagine the Clinton campaign is going to be pushing pretty hard. You know, I spent a few years working at Planned Parenthood here in Massachusetts. I can tell you this is a huge victory after years of the pro-choice community feeling like we've been being kicked and kicked with these incremental hits across the states. This is a huge victory. The enthusiasm is overwhelming today amongst people in the pro-choice and reproductive health community. And the Hillary Clinton campaign put out a strong statement right away. They're going to double down hard on this and force Donald Trump to talk about his opposition to women's reproductive health.
If the initial legislative action was so far-reaching, that how is this like a big victory when you're bringing it back to something that...
Because there are 22 states with restrictions in place that mirror what was in existence in Texas, and this creates an overwhelmingly and hugely important precedent for those anti-women's reproductive health restrictions to be rolled back. That is a huge victory.
Carly.
I was going to say, don't forget that that's also going to energize the anti-abortion voters. And the question is, what do they do? Do they, to your point, do they believe that Donald Trump is their guy? And if not, who do they go to?
That's the thing. They know Hillary isn't, so that goes back to that wild card again. I mean, I don't know what I'm getting in Donald Trump, but I know what I'm getting in Hillary.
Mayor, pleasure.
Thank you.
Bessie, nice to see you.
Thanks, Jim.
Carly, you as well.
Great to see you.
Thanks so much.